Minister, this is a question in relation to fire safety. Obviously, Priory Hall had hit the headlines, but there are developments in all of the 4 Dublin local authority areas which have had to be evacuated because of fire safety issues, and obviously recently we had one in Navan similarly. Your response has been it's up to the local authorities to deal with it. I want to know what have they actually done and what are you going to do to make them carry out that function, because in fairness I think lives are at risk because of the lack of regulation in this area.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
I suppose I have no, as you rightly point out, Deputy, I haven't direct responsibility, but I have responsibility for policy in relation to the Fire and Safety Acts and their implementation. It's a matter for each fire authority, but we continue to be in touch with local authorities about this very important issue. And I have taken a number of initiatives during the course of the year to ensure that where there are problems in relation to certain developments, not of the scale of Priory Hall, and of course you'll be pleased to know that that matter is now in the course of being resolved under the direction and chairmanship of Dr. Martello. But I do expect local authorities to continue to use the powers they have to address the serious building defects. Earlier in 2014, I signed into law as well the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2013, which will come into effect on the 1st of March. And you can see there's a fair bit of opposition from professional bodies in relation to what I'm trying to do there. What I want to do in those cases is to ensure that what people sign up to is actually implemented. And I'm empowering the professionals to make sure it happens. The new regulations are designed to ensure that the competence and the professionalism become part and parcel of building projects generally, and they'll certainly usher in a new era of quality in our construction industry. The Department continues to liaise with key stakeholders with a view that the new statutory requirements are fully understood and that they work well in practice. In this context, we have had 6 different versions of a document in relation to the Code of Practice with the architects. I get criticised for the fact that we don't consult, but you wouldn't have version 6 unless you were consulting for people to ensure that the Code of Practice is actually able to be implemented on the ground in a very important way. We are consulting further with these professional groups to ensure that they understand perfectly that 1st of March 2014 that these new measures under the Building Control Regulations will be implemented. We are not changing the Act, we're changing the manner in which the Act is being implemented.
Deputy Daly.
There are 2 very important issues based on that. I think it's important to say the new regulations will not meet the challenges that exist on the ground. We are and will remain the only country that doesn't have an effective government-backed audit scheme or inspection scheme in the area of building regulations, and that is what is absolutely necessary. You'll note the Latvian Prime Minister had to resign over them abandoning such a similar scheme. Minister, your answer said that you expect local authorities to carry out the powers that they have, and that's been a consistent refrain, if you like, from you. The point I have consistently made and brought to your attention is in many instances they have not done that, and the question is, if you don't have the power to make them do it, you better start changing it. And I want to give you one example in that regard, and it is the question of a development in my own constituency, a private housing estate called Martello, and the residents there have spent tens of thousands of euros getting professional reports done which demonstrated a lack of compliance with the fire regulations. The council, either through lack of resources or lack of will, have failed to take that information seriously, have failed to ensure proper inspections of the works that were subsequently done to make that development allegedly safe, and residents are still in that dwelling without proper fire compliance, and the local authority has done nothing. So I want to know what you're going to do to make them do what they should have been doing in the first place.
Well, I'm not going to assume the role that you've assumed of being an inspector for fire service provision in any particular dwelling. So if you give me the details, I'll get it investigated. I'm not going to micromanage the system. It's a devolved function to local authorities, and perhaps you have a very close relationship with the local authorities to be able to make representations to them as well. And together we might be able to resolve these issues. But if you give me the details, I'll be glad to investigate them.